nobody understands that, is usually attached to very negative kind of environment. Working hard, living with your family, supporting your family, being honest is all part of the Sharia law.
There's always going to be some level of, I would say, I'm not going to call it skepticism, maybe I'll call it institutional bias. We set up Qardus as the first Sharia-compliant SME crowdfunding platform. Trust takes a very long time to build and it's lost overnight. For me, Islamic finance is risk-free, or it's a charity, so you cannot make money on it. We've rejected businesses that were not involved in the Sharia-compliant sector, even though the business owners were Muslim. We quickly realized, we started to see investors come on our platform that are not Muslim, and they're attracted by the ethical aspects as well as the profits they're able to make on the platform. Could invest and start generating returns on a monthly basis.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Social Untold. Today we're talking about a topic that's hardly ever discussed, hardly ever gets the spotlight. We're going to talk about Sharia-compliant investments, Sharia-compliant funding, or Sharia-compliant finance. How does a young Muslim entrepreneur, in any age in fact, can access finances, funds, investments, which is in line with their faith? And also, how do investors invest in something that's Sharia compliant, that is in line with their faith? We have today with us Hassan Daher, who is founder of a organization called Qardus. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Hassan?
Qardus.
Qardus.
Yeah.
And what you do is you have a platform for investments, and you have a platform which supports small businesses.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so over to you, Hassan.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me a bit about yourself?
Yeah.
What you've done previously?
Yeah.
How did you came about coming into Islamic finance and so on?
Okay. So, first of all, thanks for inviting me to your podcast. So basically, I'm originally Lebanese from the Middle East, and we always knew about Islamic finance. I studied finance at the University of Manchester, worked in Dubai in corporate finance and mergers and acquisitions, and every now and then they would ask us to basically to structure a financing facility in a Sharia-compliant way. So I started doing that, and it struck my curiosity. I wanted to learn more. So that took me all the way to, so I became a CFA charter holder.
Oh, wow.
And then that took me all the way to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, where there's a really good university in Islamic finance. And I decided to do a PhD and learn more, and to learn more about it. So once I was done with the PhD, I came back to the UK, wanted to do something in the fintech space.
Okay.
And that's basically how we set up Qardus. So we quickly realized that businesses in the UK that happened to be Muslim-owned did not have access to finance that allowed them to grow. So we wanted to do something about it and solve this problem. On the other side, we also realized that investors didn't have access to a lot of Sharia-compliant investment options. So that's why we set up Qardus as the first Sharia-compliant SME crowdfunding platform.
Okay, so my first question around this would be, coming into UK,
Yeah.
and especially in times like we are in,
Yeah.
and announcing that you're opening a Sharia-compliant financing company.
Yeah.
And to me, I always think the word Sharia is always misunderstood.
Yeah.
Is Sharia-compliant financing, nobody understands that,
Yeah.
is usually attached to very negative kind of environment.
That's
the
right.
word Sharia.
That's right.
And in fact, working hard, living with your family, supporting your family, being honest is all part of the Sharia law.
Yeah, of course.
And now, within the Sharia financing, how did you find that? How did you break that barrier? Or you still haven't?
It's a very good question. As you mentioned, the Sharia basically it gives us guidance. It's a way of life, basically. and part of it involves Islamic commercial law, and that's the basis on which Sharia-compliant finance was built.
Hmm.
I think there's always going to be some level of I would say, I'm not going to call it skepticism. Maybe I'll call
Hmm.
it institutional bias against
Absolutely. Yeah.
against Sharia or anything Islamic
Hmm.
related. Uh, I wouldn't say from, for example, from the regulator, for example,
Hmm.
who are over here in the UK, the FCA, who have always been open to Islamic finance, but I would say more from institutions, from people as well. But having said that, when we first launched the platform, I mean, we never set out for example, even though our platform's open to everyone, we never set out to go to have non-Muslims invest on our platform,
Hmm.
but they found their way to our platform, started investing, and
Wow.
so I mean, it's a mix. I'd say. Uh, I mean, anywhere you go, you're going to have, especially when it comes to religion, you're going to have people pro
Pro and against, of
and
course.
against. Yeah.
So now with this, the way things are changing,
Yeah.
with, let's say, investing in terms of finding the right investors,
Yeah.
in terms of um being in, what is the kind of vision? So if you're going to an investor, for somebody like me,
Yeah.
if I was looking for an investment
Yeah.
within my business,
Yeah.
how would I be approaching you? What can I expect from you?
Yeah. 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 So we have an online application form, a simple online application form. We're actually publishing a new application form by I think by Tuesday. So we try to make it as simple as possible for a business to approach us, even though we approach a lot of businesses as well
Hmm.
to market our product, basically. So they would come on the platform and submit 2 years of financial accounts,
Hmm.
6 months of bank statements, and then we'll on our end, a member of our team will reach out to the business either with a request for additional information or a rejection if they don't meet our eligibility criteria, or they'll proceed with the underwriting process so they could get funding. So uh, everything we do is benchmarked from a technology standpoint when it comes to whether or not the business is eligible for funding. So,
Hmm.
for example, based on our current product, we don't offer funding to startups, for example.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be eligible for funding on our own platform
Mm.
because startups don't need debt financing, Islamic debt financing.
Hmm.
It's a bit too early for that.
Hmm.
They're good for equity financing. So if you had a product that made sense for startups, we would fund startups.
Okay. So let's talk about the type of products, because
Yeah,
when we talk about finance in general,
yeah,
not Islamic finance, um, there are loads of different products out there in the
yeah,
market that people can have access to.
yeah,
Now, first of all, the type of products you have,
yeah,
one, and also what makes you, apart from being Sharia compliant, what makes your product unique?
yeah. When we first started off, we were trying to evaluate which type of product to bring on the platform. We quickly realized that in a service-based economy like the UK, working capital financing is top of the list
Hmm.
because most companies are asset light. They
Yeah.
don't have any assets. So it could be a marketing company, a law firm, even some healthcare companies, even though they've got inventory and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But so we developed a working capital product based on a structure called Murabaha,
Okay.
which basically allowed us to offer term financing uh, to eligible businesses, basically.
So where, I mean, this is may come across as a stupid question to you, but in, so with is Sharia compliant financing,
Yeah,
the way a normal person understands this is Sharia compliant financing should be, whether you're an investor or you're seeking for investment,
mm,
it's money against goods,
yeah,
right? So how does your product fit in
yeah.
to that?
So we use a product called Murabaha, which means, as you mentioned, all Sharia compliant finance should be should be linked to the real economy, and that's why money against money could only be done in a fashion, uh, in a benevolent contract like a Qard Hassan, where no profits
Yeah.
could be charged. So that's the only way money against money can actually take place. In a Murabaha contract, essentially what happens is one of two things. If the underlying asset can be identified, let's say a pharmacy wants to buy inventory,
Okay.
uh, paracetamol, for example. You could use the paracetamol where the investors purchase the paracetamol,
Yeah.
sell it to the uh, to the uh, to the person seeking the funding, the company seeking the funding, and then Qardus acts as the agent of the company seeking the funding to sell the goods and give them the money, for example.
At a high
Uh,
price.
yeah.
Okay.
So then it's a cost plus markup, let's say.
Mhm.
So that's one way. Uh, in such a case, for example, paracetamol to a pharmacy, they're not looking to sell they're looking to sell the goods, but they're looking to take ownership of the goods. When assets cannot be identified, then what happens is use what's called the commodity murabaha, which involves the purchase and sale of commodities that are readily available on the market to meet that real economic activity requirement of Sharia compliant finance. So what essentially then happens is the same mechanism I just mentioned. Investors purchase commodities. Commodities are sold to the business,
Yep.
and then Cardus acts as the agent of the business to sell the commodities and give them the money. So
Okay.
so what
Okay.
they're left with
Here's the money.
is the cost plus markup. They're left with the money,
Yeah.
but they need to repay the cost of the goods plus the markup, which is the profit element that
Absolutely.
investors receive.
Okay.
So-
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that's kind of clarified. I'm hoping it's clarified for a lot of people, because this is
Yeah.
one of those misconceptions or misunderstandings people have
Yeah,
when it
100%.
comes to. So, would you say that there you have a lot of competition? You have a lot of other. There are loads of other organizations
Yeah.
that are not directly as Islamic finance, but there are finance companies, and part of they've got small products
Yeah.
that is offered towards Muslims.
Yeah.
So, with that, how do you compare yourself with those organizations? Because they're obviously larger organizations,
Yeah.
and there is a trust factor as well.
Yeah.
So, how do you come across? How do you come over that?
Yeah. So I mean, the trust has to be built over time. So when we first started the platform, investors used to invest small amounts, basically, because we hadn't built that trust with them. Over time, as they realized they were able to generate returns on our platform, they started to invest larger amounts of money into the offers on our platform. So the trust took a while to build. Uh, I mean, I think I read recently a quote that said basically trust takes a very long time to build and it's lost overnight. Basically.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So with this, let's talk about the investor side.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of percentage? I mean, it don't have to be exact figures, but what kind of percentage can an investor look at?
Yeah.
I mean, for example, again, from my understanding,
Yeah.
I'm not very good at finance, but from my understanding is that higher risks means higher returns, lower risks, lower returns,
Yeah.
and where does Islamic finance fit into that?
Yeah. So 100%. The same applies to Islamic finance. I mean, when it comes to returns, I mean, currently, historically, investors have been able to generate returns of around 10% per annum. But I mean, it's a capital at risk model, right? So essentially, what that means is that, I mean, the returns are not guaranteed. Because there is a certain element of risk by offering unsecured business financing to small businesses. So, but yeah, having said that, that's basically been the case. But I mean, when you look at it just from a pure risk and return perspective, the same applies to Islamic finance from a commercial standpoint. Sorry, I'm interchangeably using Islamic and Sharia compliant finance, but
They both mean the same
they
thing.
both mean the same thing exactly. But I would say one thing is that there are certain things that are not allowed in Sharia compliant contracts, such as, for example, the avoidance of gharar, which means uncertainty.
Mhm.
And that's when we talk about uncertainty, we're talking about uncertainty in the contracts, contractual uncertainty. It doesn't mean
Okay.
you cannot take risk, because that's another misconception
Hmm.
that Islamic finance means risk free.
Hmm. Yeah,
It does
absolutely.
not mean risk
Yeah.
free, and it never meant risk free. So when you look at the caravan
Hmm.
traders at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi
Sallallahu alaihi
wasallam,
wasallam. Yeah.
basically they were not they were taking risks.
Hmm.
So they were going all the way from Mecca to Damascus, and there
Hmm.
were big risks
Hmm.
on the road. But having said that, they were financed uh, uh, using the financing facilities that were available at the time, and that were Sharia compliant Islamic.
So now we're talking about different types of basis of Sharia finance.
Yeah,
Now another thing that everybody has in their mind, even in fact myself, I always thought that futures and derivatives
yeah,
are not halal. Full stop. They're not Sharia compliant.
yeah.
Is that true?
So there's a lot of debate about that. So the idea behind it is that because most investors these days use forward and future contracts
Hmm.
to not because they're looking to purchase the underlying uh, product, but because they want to either hedge
Yeah.
or they want to uh, basically uh, take an underlying trade, make money, for example, on a futures contract that's
Hmm.
linked to the to gold or the S&P 500,
Yeah.
and they're looking to make a return and then close it out before the end of the term, basically.
Yeah.
So they're looking to make money. They're not
Hmm.
necessarily looking for the underlying product. So the underlying product, uh, from a Sharia compliance standpoint, it's important that a contract should be used to actually receive something at the end of it.
Hmm.
So
Not just gains.
not just gains, not
Hmm.
just gains. Then the second thing is the interest component in a
Hmm.
financials or futures
Hmm.
contract. But essentially, when it comes to Sharia compliance, it's all about, as I mentioned earlier, the lack of uncertainty or gharar, which means that the product that are being so if the contract is being used, for example, a salam contract,
Hmm.
Islamic finance, which would be maybe the most close.
Closest to, yeah.
The product is clearly defined. It has to be readily available.
Hmm.
It can't be subject to interpretation. So everything has to be clearly defined between both parties
Hmm.
to avoid uncertainty that could lead then to problems between the underlying parties.
Okay, so now as we're talking about futures and we're talking about derivatives,
Yeah.
now also I would like to also ask you that from a customer's standpoint, from a new business standpoint, or
Yeah.
anyone who's seeking investment,
Yeah.
you are Sharia compliant, you offer it in a Sharia compliant way. Now, in terms of assessing the investors,
Yeah.
and so where the money is coming from, how do you ensure that their investment is Sharia compliant?
Yeah. So when it
Oh,
comes,
actually, sorry, let me
yeah,
rephrase that. Is the source of funds
yeah, yeah,
is Sharia
100%.
compliant?
Yeah. So it's very difficult to determine whether the source of funds are Sharia compliant, but essentially, when it comes to Islamic finance, the underlying transaction should be completed in a Sharia compliant way,
Okay.
which means that the underlying contracts and mechanisms that are put in place,
Mhm.
as well as so the transaction itself has to be end to end Sharia compliant. So if you've got the source of funds uh, uh, that are not audited, whether or not they were received in a Sharia compliant way, it doesn't really matter as long as the transaction itself is Sharia
Is Sharia
compliant.
compliant?
Yeah,
So, okay, again, this may be a very stupid question. So, somebody could be running a store selling alcohol.
yeah.
That's their investment will not be Sharia compliant, would it?
So if they took the money and they invested it through a Sharia compliant transaction, and for example, in our case, the underlying business is so we what we do is we run a lot of different checks to make sure that the the business that's receiving funding is in a Sharia-compliant sector, in a Sharia-compliant activity. We've rejected businesses that were not involved in a Sharia-compliant sector, even though the business owners were Muslim.
Okay.
But if this company or person made his money using alcohol and there's nothing stopping him from investing on the platform.
Okay.
Because the transaction itself is
Is Sharia compliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of clears a big misconception amongst people.
Yes.
So now let's come to another difficult question, I would say,
Yeah.
is the investor's debt to equity ratio.
Yeah.
Does that matter?
Yeah. Sorry, you mean the business or?
No, the person who is investing.
Yeah.
So they may have conducted their business,
Yeah.
or their company profile would be that they deal in 50% of debt, and they have debt from standard finance organizations
Yeah.
where they pay interest, where they pay riba.
Okay. Okay.
So how does that work?
Yeah. So that works if you want on the equity side. If we're looking at the other side of the equation, the business, the underlying business. So now that doesn't apply to the product we're using now, because the product we're using now is basically a trade-based mechanism. So essentially, the investors are trading with the underlying business to give them the financing. But if they were making an equity investment in the underlying business, it would need to meet certain parameters that include the debt to equity ratio, the availability of 5% of the revenues cannot, only 5% of the revenues could be from a non-Sharia compliant activity, and all these different.
So there are certain checks that you would do before proceeding.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's come to a typical example of a business who's looking for funding.
Yeah.
If I was to go to a standard normal bank,
Yeah.
it could be in matters of hours I would receive the funds.
Yeah.
Right, which is the ease that I'm talking about for investors, so for businesses.
Yeah.
Now, how does it work with you? So if a person came to you and they ticked all the right boxes, how quickly can they get funding?
So we've done it in the past between a week and 10 days. We've done it within these parameters, but crowdfunding is a bit more difficult. So we've done that in the past, but crowdfunding is a bit more difficult because in crowdfunding, you need to, essentially, you put an offer on the platform, and then the offer needs to get investors invest in the offer. So once the deal is put on the platform, you're at the mercy of the investors whether or not they want to fund it or not.
Okay.
So I'd say that's the big difference, whereby a bank basically has got depositors' money.
Yeah.
It holds on to it and it's got its own capital. We're moving towards a mix of both. Actually, at the moment, that's what we're working towards, where we bring in an institutional funder and we carry on with the crowdfunding. So crowdfunding dynamics are a bit more different. Sometimes we have deals, for example, on the crowdfunding side that close in a couple of days.
Wow. Okay.
Sometimes it takes longer, just because of a lot of different reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now comes the big question. As a business, is it more costly for me to go onto your platform than a traditional business? Or is it same? Is it cheaper?
Yeah.
What is the difference?
So we try to be in line with, so the space we're in would be up against companies such as Funding Circle, iWoka. They're called alternative finance providers. I think we do a really good job at competing with them.
Okay.
Like even though a lot of Islamic finance providers in the UK in different areas charge higher, I would say.
Okay. And when we're talking about these different platforms, with your funding, so what will be the highest amount you've given out so far, and what will be the minimum? So let's try and understand a bit of that if somebody was interested.
Yeah. So at the moment we offer between 50,000 to 500,000 pounds.
Okay.
The highest amount we've funded, I think, is around 320,000 pounds, which we funded in January.
Okay. And what would a normal and average term of that contract look like?
36 months.
36 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And does it change or
Yeah. So, for example, this one, the one I just spoke about, it was a pharmacy group, and they got funding for 6 months.
okay,
Yeah. So I'd say the longest term we have is 36 months.
36 months?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's working capital
Okay.
finance.
Okay. Um, Now, moving on, where do you see in terms of newer products? Because it's a huge market.
Yeah.
There are people who are looking for different types of products. So, what else can we see within this market coming up?
Yeah. So our focus is on business finance. So anything from invoice finance to revolving credit facilities. So uh, our focus is on supporting businesses to grow.
Hmm.
So we're looking to offer them quicker and quicker financing options rather than go towards other types of financing that are very, uh, I would say, lengthy.
Okay.
So we're looking to go quicker and quicker, and shorter and shorter terms,
Okay. Okay.
uh, rather than go, for example, into commercial real estate or anything like that, where the terms go out 5, 7, 10 years.
Okay. Okay. So, now, what would an average? So you've mentioned healthcare organizations, you've mentioned pharmacies.
Yeah,
So let's talk about the safety of your. How do you ensure? Now, this is for the investors' point of view. From the,
yeah,
what are your safety measures for investors
yeah,
who
yeah,
are investing in your platform?
yeah,
So, how would they be ensured that their investment is safe?
yeah. On the platform, first of all, we have a credit underwriting team. So when a business submits its documents on our platform, we basically underwrite the business to make sure that the business is a going concern in the near future, and it will hopefully keep on doing well until they complete the term. So we do that. We run KYC on the KYB and KYC on the business as well as on the directors of
Directors.
the
Hmm.
company. So we do a lot of work on our end, but there's no guarantee that
Hmm.
the investment is so we're not we don't have any FSCS guarantees like the banks or anything like that. So rather we also take personal guarantees from the directors of the company so that if anything happens wrong with the business, the director is liable for the
So it's like the director's guarantee.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, so with this, let's go into the other types within financing. So would you also have commodities investments? And so with commodities, the way things are now, there is no physical transaction of commodities with. So how does that work? How does it fit in?
yeah. So we wouldn't want to go into commodities. Rather, would want to go into, for example, when we're running a transaction that involves, for example, commodity murabaha, there is an actual sale that takes place,
Okay.
but it all happens in the back end of our system. So there is a sale and reselling that takes place. So these are conditions that have to be met from a Sharia compliance standpoint. So there has to be sale and resale. So the transactions do take place,
Hmm.
but there's no exchange of goods, if you want,
Hmm.
unless the underlying financing that's required. So, for example, if you've got a business and you need the funding, for example, to hire new staff or to spend on marketing
Hmm.
or uh, or anything like that,
Hmm.
then you don't really have assets that can be used to generate the transaction. So that's when you use commodities.
Okay.
Otherwise, you wouldn't need to use the commodities. You could use the assets itself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So we've spoken a lot about Sharia compliance.
yeah,
Now, you're operating in the UK.
yeah,
How about compliance with the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA?
yeah.
So, how are you regulated by FCA?
Yes. So we're regulated by the FCA. There's a compliance team basically that reviews everything we do. I mean, So I mean, yeah, the from a regulatory standpoint, it's quite there's a lot of regulations in the crowdfunding space,
Right.
so it's a highly regulated
Okay.
space.
So now let's go into a bit more about your investors.
Yeah,
Are your investors generally from UK or they can be from anywhere?
yeah. So our investors cannot be from the US or Canada for tax reasons. Otherwise, I would say around 80% of our investors are from the UK.
Okay.
20% are a mix of Europe and the Middle East and Africa.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And now the businesses you support, you only support businesses within UK
at the
or
moment.
you okay. But there are plans
To expand abroad, yeah,
to
definitely.
expand abroad.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. With the investors now,
yeah.
so now we are talking about the kind of returns they get for. So are your returns fixed or they're variable? How does that work?
So the returns themselves are fixed, but as I mentioned earlier, the returns are not guaranteed. It all depends on these businesses are operational businesses, and they have fluctuations as well. But yeah, the returns are fixed. Yeah, the projected returns are fixed. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, moving on towards the general Islamic finance, we see in countries, so especially quite a lot of Muslim countries now,
Yeah.
have larger banks providing Islamic finance. Um, Now, where do you see the future for Islamic finance, not just yourself,
Yeah.
but Islamic finance in general?
Yeah. So I definitely see the future in the fintech space. So in rather than have I mean, Islamic banks have got a lot of money, but they don't necessarily know how to make processes easier and simpler. So I think fintechs could go a very long way in terms of linking up uh, providers of capital with businesses or individuals who need capital. I see there's a lot of potential for crypto as well, cryptocurrencies.
So
Uh,
I was going to come into that in a
all right,
minute, but
okay,
yeah, let's
yeah,
continue.
yeah. So I mean that's got a lot of good applications. So I mean, it's all about removing all the barriers and frictions that make a transaction slow and difficult, and try to uh, make a transaction as smooth as possible without compromising risk. So there's a lot of room for fintechs to be able to do that.
Right. Okay. Now, you've already mentioned crypto.
Yeah,
Now, there is a lot of misconception, I should say, around crypto and if crypto is Sharia compliant, if it's not compliant, if one should be investing in crypto,
yeah,
it's too risky,
yeah.
it's too volatile. Now, where do you stand
Yeah.
in terms of cryptocurrency?
So, I mean, it's a very interesting space, and also, as usual, there's a lot of debate between the different scholars. So, for example, in Indonesia, the scholars believe that uh, the volatility of cryptos make them not halal. But other scholars think that that's not a requirement because in Islamic finance, risk is allowed. You could take on risk. Uh, Certain types of cryptocurrencies are not halal by design. For example, some of the meme coins that are out there and stuff like that. Bitcoin, I mean, there's a lot of scholars who believe it's Sharia compliant, it's halal because it meets all the requirements. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of applications that you could use, especially when it comes to tokenization.
Yeah.
And but that's very early days when it comes to tokenization. But I think there's a lot of applications that could be used from a tokenization standpoint to uh, to make financing more accessible.
So something you've just mentioned,
Yeah,
and it's not a planned question at all.
yeah,
Meme coins.
yeah,
You've mentioned meme coins, and there seems to be a huge rise in meme coins,
yeah,
and a lot of people are now investing in meme coins.
yeah,
For example, the recent Trump coin,
yeah,
a lot of people invested in it, made loads of money from it.
yeah,
And from my understanding, I'm not a scholar with my basic understanding, a meme coin, because it's not backed by anything,
Yeah.
there is nothing backing the meme coin, no projects,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
It cannot be halal.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that how it is?
Yeah.
Am I right in understanding it?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the problem with it. It's that it's hype driven.
Hmm.
So, for example, a Trump meme coin is basically it's got zero intrinsic value. It's just the hype that he's able to create. I mean, he's able to create quite successfully. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, uh, so he creates that hype, and that hype drives the meme coin. But there's no actual use of it, first of
Yeah.
all, and the use of it's really important. So, is this coin being used for to fulfill a purpose, or
Yeah.
does it have no purpose? It seems that these meme coins have no purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, a tweet can raise the price or drop the price.
100%.
So, okay. And so let's talk about the halal coins.
Yeah.
I've seen a few listed on your website. What makes a coin halal?
I mean, we're not involved in the crypto space directly. I mean, we just write about it. It's an
Yeah.
interesting topic, but I mean, what makes a coin halal? I mean, there's like a checklist of specific requirements that need to be met for the for example, for Bitcoin to be halal, and these requirements are the same as for any other asset. So. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there can be no gharar or uncertainty. I mean, obviously there are requirements around gambling and maisir, which is not allowed, is prohibited. No riba,
Yep, absolutely.
usufruct, basically in it. And then what is the intended purpose of this coin? Does it fulfill a specific purpose? So I mean, it's this long checklist of requirements that need to be met before a cryptocurrency could be defined as halal
Halal
or
or
not.
not halal.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so this is very interesting, especially because there's so much, and I feel that in Muslim countries,
Yeah.
there's a lot more trading of cryptocurrency than it is anywhere else amongst general public.
Yeah.
Now, we are talking about, so staying within the crypto area, do you see you as an organization yourself ever investing in crypto?
So probably on the tokenization side, yeah. Real world tokenization.
And again, talking about investing,
Yeah.
so do you see yourself investing in Islamic bonds, other finance products on behalf of your investors?
Um, I wouldn't say in the near term, just because we've been focusing just on the business side of things. But who knows? Maybe at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the moment, you're focusing on your crowdfunding platform
Yeah.
in supporting businesses.
Yeah.
Okay. And so would you also accept, so it's one of going back to crowdfunding now. So if
Yeah.
you have a customer,
Yeah.
they have completed their term,
Yeah.
would you also, if they came for reinvestment,
Yeah.
would you support them?
Yeah. So I mean, we've supported around I'd say around over 30% of our customers actually got top up financing,
Okay.
refinancing.
Okay. So now, I have asked this question previously as well.
Yeah.
So I'll just touch back on it again, just for clarity.
Yeah.
Is you said you match the so the cost basically of financing, you match your what's it called? You used a term for those companies.
You mean the underwriting?
And no, not underwriting, but the facilities like Avoca and so
Oh, yeah,
the alternative funding.
Alternative lenders. Yeah.
So alternative lenders. So do you see the cost of it going down in the future, or do you think it's going to remain the same? I
Yeah.
mean, how would it become more attractive to people
Yeah.
who are using?
Yeah. So I definitely think over time, as we scale, the cost will come down. because like if you look at Funding Circle used to be a crowdfunding platform,
Mm-hmm.
peer-to-peer platform, and then what happened is they got institutional funding,
Mm-hmm.
and over time they were able to get larger and larger uh, funding, institutional funding or credit lines. So I think at the moment they get over £1 billion or £10 billion in. So their cost of finance, their cost of operation is much lower than. I wouldn't say their cost of operation is quite high, but their cost of finance is much lower than cost of finance on our platform, for example, because
Absolutely. Yeah.
they're much bigger. So I think over time, yeah, as you scale, the cost should come down. If they don't come down, then there's definitely a problem in.
Okay. Now, we've talked about Islamic finance being used in different countries.
Yeah.
Have you seen the model you're working on uh, working anywhere else at the moment?
Yeah. It's definitely been recently developed in the Gulf, in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's been around for a while in the United Arab Emirates, in the UAE, Dubai. It's much more recent in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've definitely seen that in the Middle East.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's next for Qardus?
Yeah. So definitely, we're finalizing terms with an institutional funder, so we could offer more and more financing to small businesses. We're building our technology, so we could offer quicker financing. We want to reduce the time that
It takes.
it takes. Basically, we're developing new products for investors as well. Looking at different tax-free structures that are available in the UK as well, so they could be eligible on our platform for investors as well.
Okay. So now, as an investor,
Yeah.
I want to invest in your platform. What do you need from me?
So
How do I go about? I mean, if you can explain the process from start to finish.
yeah. What the investor would need to do is to go on Qardus.com, and then click on investing or registering on the platform. Then there's a simple registration form that they need to fill out. They need to submit a passport copy, uh, and they need to complete the financial appropriateness test, because the FCA requires that before an investor invests, they understand the investment that they're making. So there is like a quiz, a test that they need to complete and pass before they could invest on the platform.
Okay.
So the KYC process itself is quite straightforward and it's automated, but the financial appropriateness test, I would say, is what the investors need to understand well, so they understand the risks that they're taking before they're investing on the platform.
Okay. And if you can, I know you've touched on it previously as well.
Yeah.
For a business seeking funding,
Yeah.
what would be the process from start to finish?
Yeah. So for businesses, the process is actually simpler because the investor side is regulated by the FCA, not the business side. So for the business, all they need to do is complete a simple online application form, submit 6 months of bank statements, and the two most recent financial accounts. And a member of our team will get back to them as soon as possible, within 48 hours, not more than 48 hours, with the next steps in order to obtain the funding.
Okay. Now, uh, in literally the Sharia compliant financing
Yeah.
or Islamic financing, when somebody hears it, they say this is only for Muslims, purely for Muslims,
Yeah.
for investors as well as businesses seeking finance.
Yeah.
What, how would you say you will attract people who are non-Muslim,
Yeah.
but also looking at? I mean, to me, I see this as ethical investments,
Yeah.
right? Rather than Sharia compliant. I mean, that's the word I would use if I was speaking to somebody who does not understand Sharia. So, what is there for non-Muslims?
Yeah. So, I mean, so when we first started Qardus, I mean, to be honest, we were targeting Muslims because we thought only they'd be looking for this. But we quickly realized, I mean, we started to see investors come on our platform that are not Muslim, and they're attracted by the ethical aspects as well as the profits they're able to make on the platform. So we never set out to target them, but when they started coming, I mean, that was great because uh, our platform is open to everyone.
Absolutely, yeah.
We like that inclusiveness. I mean, a good case study would be Malaysia, for example, where you will see that there are lots of non-Muslims that go to an Islamic bank and get a mortgage, get car financing, just because the rates are better than conventional banks.
Wow.
Yeah,
So we've just mentioned mortgages
yeah.
and car financing. Do you see a future in that?
There,
I'm sorry, I'm just cutting you up, but because
yeah,
something I've previously heard
yeah,
is, and I thought it was absolutely ridiculous thing, is halal insurance.
yeah,
How, I mean, to a person like me,
yeah,
halal and insurance, it doesn't go together.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, yeah, could you just clarify that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Insurance uh, in itself, as you mentioned, is not halal,
Yeah.
but um, uh, the structure is completely different when it comes to Islamic insurance. If you want, it's called takaful,
Okay.
and takaful means uh, two things. First, it means that let's say 10 people are looking for insurance. These 10 people uh, they act as kafils, so they put their money in a pool. The money is invested so it can generate returns for claims, etc.
Okay.
And they cover each other.
Okay. Okay. So a bit like a syndicate.
Yeah, a bit like yeah, exactly, exactly like a syndicate where the actual insured are uh, are uh, are uh, are are covering each other, are
So,
covering each.
I'm essentially insuring myself as somebody else,
Hundred
if
percent.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 5 people put each one, let's say £100 just for that. So you've got a pool of £500, and not all five are going to fall sick at the same time. So these £500 are being invested, and let's say you've got £400 worth of claims at the end of the year. There's £100 left. So the £400 worth of claims are paid as and when they're due, and then the £100 that's remaining is spread back to the five insured people.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's how in theory it works.
So have you seen it working in practice?
In certain countries, yes, in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia, but not in its purest form. Not in its purest form, but yes, it's been working in
Because
practice.
I have had experience where I've seen people
Yeah,
forming a syndicate by themselves
yeah,
for any calamities such as that.
yeah.
But I've never seen it institutionalized.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, I mean, I've thought about it many times. I find it very interesting. It's just the question is whether the regulatory structure allows it.
To happen.
Yeah, I think maybe the closest to it would be cooperative insurance or something along these lines. But frankly, I haven't looked at it deeply. But it's very interesting.
Okay. And now we also mentioned halal mortgages,
Yeah.
car financing. Do you see yourself going into that ever?
Not necessarily halal mortgages because I think there are lots of players in the space here in the UK.
They're very expensive, though. That's the thing.
They're extremely expensive. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
because I've personally researched on a few,
yeah,
and there was one they're asking for 30% upfront.
yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. They're very expensive. I looked at all the products,
Yeah.
extremely expensive, and it's not right. I don't think that's right. If we were to ever go into this space, it's to create a product that that doesn't that doesn't do this kind of that's not that's either fairly priced or we wouldn't get into it. It's just yeah, it's just it's exorbitant the types of costs that are applied, and people end up taking it. I think to be honest, I think the people who end up taking it are people who are not necessarily uh, uh, very creditworthy because if 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 they looked at it right next to a conventional mortgage
Yeah.
and they were creditworthy, I don't think they'd pick the Islamic option. They wouldn't pay that much of a premium.
Absolutely, because I've seen. So the cheapest one I saw was with 20%, I think, up front, 20% deposit,
Yeah,
and then the even the markup was astronomical.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, the markup is crazy. I've seen 35, like you said, 35, 40%. Who would take that? Who would take that? It's
and now, so you said no to mortgages, no to Islamic. So car financing. So if I was to
Yeah.
vote,
Yeah, car financing is maybe something we'll look at in the future. It might be interesting. It might be interesting.
because it's an easier trade to make, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
so much. So,
yeah, yeah,
and we have examples of it, I think,
yeah,
even through the hadith.
yeah, yeah,
We have examples of these such trades being made.
yeah, 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 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Now, any. So I'll do a. All right. Let's do a quick fire round,
Okay.
and then we'll have a moment where you can introduce any other products or
Yeah.
talk about what your future plans are,
Yeah.
and so on. So, first, quick question: a myth about one myth that is true about Islamic finance.
So, Islamic finance is fair, I would say. I think it's true if it's done properly.
Okay. Now, one myth that the most ridiculous myth that you've ever heard about Islamic finance.
Oh, yeah. For me, is Islamic finance is risk free. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, or it's a charity, so you cannot make money on it. That's
Okay.
even a bigger myth.
Yeah. Right. Next, one resource that you would recommend to somebody
Yeah.
who's looking into ethical finance or Islamic finance.
Yeah.
One book, article, something that you say
Yeah.
is you found the with good information.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got a lot of blog posts that we've put on that give a good understanding, overview of Islamic finance. So I think if anyone's interested, I mean, we rank quite well on Google and search engines as well. If anyone types,
Okay. Super. Now, best financial advice you have ever had.
best financial advice I've ever had is, I mean, really do your research inside out before investing in anything.
Okay. Fantastic. Next, uh, if you were to fix one thing
Yeah.
in global finance, just one thing, what would it be?
If I were to fix one thing, it would be basically uh, it would be cost related. Like, make finance accessible to everyone. Finance is not accessible to everyone.
Okay, that's true. Now, one question, I've been thinking about it for a long time. As you're an expert within finance, I'd ask you this question. Gold or money, currency backed by gold, we've been talking about it. Everybody's saying
Yeah.
we don't have enough gold.
Yeah.
We have loads of currency being printed.
Yeah.
I have a feeling
Yeah.
in next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whenever, but we'll see a reevaluation of gold.
Mm.
Do you think that will happen?
I agree with that. I agree with that. I think even maybe sooner than that.
And so, in my mind,
Yeah.
as I said, I'm not very good in finance. In my mind, how the reevaluation should work
Yeah.
is we accumulate or calculate the total amount of currency that's being traded,
Yeah.
and then divide it with the total amount of gold there is, the
Yeah.
reserves there are.
Yeah.
Is that the right way of going about it?
Yeah. I think it's
Or is that the only way?
yeah. I mean, I definitely think so. I mean, I once read this study that was done on the world since the 1600s, and it just so happened that there's a 400-year period. I think even as far back as 1200, there's a 400-year period where uh, gold was backed money all over the world. There was no inflation, because whenever inflation appeared or inflation did not appear, the trade of gold between the country that had inflation and the other country that did not have inflation regulated inflation. So
Yeah.
inflation did not exist. through a gold-based system. I think there are many ways to do it. The, uh, what it ultimately comes down to, as you mentioned, is storing gold, which countries such as China have been doing uh, aggressively, and its price going up. So uh, I was looking at it last time. I think if the price goes up to 20, 30,000 dollars, I'm going to mention dollars because it's
Yeah.
quoted in dollars. At 20, $30,000, the gold in the world would be equal to the money supply in the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm a strong believer that we're probably going back to a gold-based system. If not a gold-based system, something very similar.
So, am I right in thinking that if the general people, me and you, we started buying gold,
Yeah.
thinking, will it be a wise thing to do
Yeah, I would think so.
physically rather than just investing in it on electronically?
Yes, definitely physically, because paper gold, we have no proof that there is anything backing it.
Absolutely.
We don't have proof. It has to be physical gold, yeah. And I think whoever does that is not going to regret it, because we're going into what's going on right now over the next 5 to 10 years is, I mean, it is not looking promising for fiat currencies and paper money. Yeah,
Wow.
countries, Japan, even the U.S., struggling with all the debt that they've accumulated, and yeah,
Wow. So, shall we leave with that one advice? Buy
yeah,
gold
yeah.
whenever you can, wherever you can.
I agree with that. I
Okay.
agree. Yeah, I definitely
So,
agree with that. Yeah,
closing notes from you.
yeah,
This is the time for you to
yeah.
talk about anything you want
Okay.
with our viewers.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just promote Qardus first of all. So basically, Qardus is an end-to-end Sharia-compliant platform. On one side of the marketplace, you've got small businesses looking for financing. So if you own a small business, an SME, and you need financing to grow, please apply on our platform. We have a simple online application form. And if you're an investor looking to generate fixed income returns, uh, sign up on our platform, register on our platform. It's an easy registration process, and then you could look at different offers or deals to finance businesses. And if you like the opportunities that are listed on the platform, you could invest and start generating returns on a monthly basis. So our website's www.qardus.com, and yeah, I think that's about it, really.
So, one question that I would ask from it:
Yeah.
what will be the smallest amount anyone can invest?
So it's as small as £10.
Okay.
Yeah, but the average ticket size, investment size, has been around £1,500 on our platform.
Fantastic, Hassan. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very
Pleasure.
much.
Thank you very much.
And guys, I hope you liked our episode. If you have any questions, if you want to view products from Qardus, you will see the links in our description. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Thank you very much.